Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. You know, it's so funny. I have a hard time, like, people. The big thing when we ended the show, the big thing people were doing was they were getting Black Lives Matter signs, and then they were taking pictures with us with the Black Lives Matter signs. It was weird because I definitely support Black Lives Matters.
No, but there's a thing where they're just jumping in and then they're bringing you into, they're using you.
Yeah, and I was like, I felt odd because there are certain signs. I felt there are definitely signs I would not want to be in front of, you know, and I feel like I should just do that, but I didn't do it. It was a weird, like, this sounds so silly, but it wasn't a bullying thing. But it's the same way I felt like on the day that you had blacked out Twitter or Instagram, and people were attacking you if you hadn't blacked yours out, or if you were like me and you.
Why do you read comments?
Actually.
If you don't read the comments, you don't know what they're saying. That's the secret.
I disabled my comments on that day, and because I didn't want to read them, and I didn't want to.
Ooh, I don't know. I wouldn't have done that. That's a little more hostile.
That was a big
That's
mistake.
like Trump turning the lights out, going down to the basement.
That's a big mistake, Bill. I found out the hard way.
Yeah.
Your silence is deafening. It's such a weird thing. You
could have said your sayings are cliche.
Yeah. It's such a weird thing because I don't know. There's a bunch of pictures of me. There's the best one is like me and I think Snoop and a bunch of all the black people on set, and they're like, Bert, get in this picture. And I was like, hey man, I don't think you want me in your picture. I've told too many jokes in the past.
That's hilarious.
Snoop's like, get in. I go, just so you know, this is the sign they're going to use when I say something inappropriate about black people. And they're like, well, then we want to be in the picture. Get in the picture. Yeah. It was, it's so fucking good to be home. My energy is different. Like, I had a great got my pool, I met my new dog last night. That was fucking awesome. The dog didn't know me.
Can you show the people? Is your dog still there?
Let me see. Mac! My whistling's off. Mac!
You dried out your mouth with that smoke.
Yeah. He'll be back here in a second. I'll bring him in. My daughters picked me up at the airport last night. My daughter's got her own car. She's driving. It's like a fucking different, It's a different world. It's a different fucking world.
You know, my dog was back in town. Yeah, it's
Really?
still technically, it's my dog. I just pay for the trainer to have it, so it lives out the rest of its life. It's a long story. It's a long story. I took rescuing to a whole other level.
You had a joke about that was so great about. I'm gonna do your joke back to you. Yeah, rescuing a dog seems like a great idea until one day you're making toast and find out the dog was beaten with a toaster. And he's like,
yeah.
What was the bit?
I probably would have said when you're making breakfast and then you realize your dog was beaten by a toaster. That way, if you don't say toaster twice.
Yeah.
Because then I don't know why it just ruins it.
It's crazy that the little rules of
comedy. I'm just doing that for anybody out there who's just starting to write jokes. I don't know what that is. But it's almost like you opened the crack so they could peek in to see the punchline coming. Yeah.
You gave too much of your magic trick away, like where they see it and they're like, it didn't work that time. I wrote a great new bit about smoking.
That was that Jackie the Joke Man bit.
What's that?
Jackie the Joke Man, he told that story about the lion. He goes, one time he goes, there was a lion. I'm going to butcher this. He goes, there was a lion in... he was taking a drink of water, right? And he bent over to take a drink of water, and his tail came up, king of the beasts, drinking the water. And all of a sudden, a gorilla ran up behind him, and he goes and he gives him the old Liberace. One stroke and takes off. And the lion's like, what the fuck? And starts chasing the lion. So chasing the gorilla. So the gorilla's running, and he's running, and he's running. And he comes to this campsite, and he looks into the tent. There's nobody in there. So he runs in, he picks up a hat, he puts it on, and he picks up the New York Times. He starts reading it. The lion's sniffing. He comes in, he comes right up to the tent. Opens it up and he looks and he sees what he sees. He goes, hey, buddy. He goes, did you see a gorilla come and run by here? And the gorilla goes, oh, you mean that one that just fucked that lion in the ass? And then the lion goes, it's already in the papers? I know I butchered it.
No.
But Jackie the Joke Man talked about how he told the joke. He goes, I had to say he picked up the New York Times.
Yes.
Because I said if he picked up the paper, I would have said that again. And that's also why he said gave him the old Liberace. Because if he said fuck the lion in the ass, that's also in the punchline. And I butchered it because I said he looked in and he asked the gorilla. That's why I had to say, hey, buddy, because I fucked that part up. I stink at telling street jokes, as you can tell.
Can I tell you that just made me so happy because I have heard that joke before, but I forgot it. And it gave me the old Liberace, and I went, I know this joke. I love this joke, but I couldn't remember what I loved about it.
No, because I told it to you. That's Jackie the Joke Man's way of telling it. He was on Gilbert Gottfried's podcast, and, dude, he was just one after the other, and then Gilbert was matching them. If you can ever find that episode, dude, we were in Canada, me, Bartnick, and Verzi, and we were just dying laughing. It just street jokes. They're the best, man. There's no fat on them unless I tell one. Then I add all these extra words that don't need to be there.
That's amazing. I tried in my last special to write a joke. Like I wanted to write a joke, but I did it my own way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of guy walks into a bar, it was based on Norm Macdonald. I walked into a coffee shop. I walked into Starbucks. And I did it in sets of threes, and then the punchline wasn't the punchline you thought it was going to be. But I would love to be able to write a joke like that. Like, it's in the papers? Like,
dude, who writes them? Because I know, like, back in the day, I used to work in this warehouse, and I used to do the second shift. I forget what time. It was like from 5 to midnight or whatever the hell it was. Or 4 to midnight, I think it was. And there was a guy there going through a divorce, so he had a second job.
Yeah.
To help pay for wherever he was living now. And he used to have all these street jokes. I was like, where do you hear these? He goes, salesman. He was always on these sales calls. I call these guys down in New York, you know, talking to other salesmen, and they just knew these jokes. And then they were the guys, I don't know who wrote them, but the guys who used back in the day before, you know, everybody had a laptop and the computers and all of that shit, how the jokes went around was salesmen calling each other. And just sort of breaking the ice when they call each other, you know, getting to know each other. You know, two guys walking to a bar, blah, 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 and all that shit.
It's interesting because don't stop me. Just let me finish what I'm about to say. You're one of the best comics I know, with hands down. But do you think you could write a joke to put in your act that people, different than like the way your brain thinks? Can you think you could write lines taken? Like how would you? You'd have to.
If I ever tried that, I think it would take me. It would be just like when I first sat down to write material. Do you remember the first time you were going to do an open mic and you're like, all right, I'm going to sit down and write something. And I just remember staring at the paper like, I've been funny my whole life. I've made people, but I was always on the fly. How do I do this? I would probably be that. And then from there, I would see if I could do it. I don't think I could, but I actually think a lot of street jokes came out of like racism, homophobia, anti-Semitism, religious stuff. I think back in the day with all the different ethnicities, they would just say, hey, how many Polacks does it take to screw in a light bulb? 2, one guy to hold on, the other guy to turn him around. And then then people would steal the jokes. How many Italians? And it was the same thing. And then I just think people kept building on those because those probably weren't funny anymore. Because if you think of like a lot of the classic street jokes, a lot of them are shitting on a religion. You know, 2 priests and a rabbi goes in, and it's like, all right, there's going to be something either shitting on the priests or shitting on being Jewish. Like you kind of know where that comes from. So I think a lot of that went from that, and then I don't know. Then there's a lot of them with like animals in them. I remember Buddy Hackett told some fucking story about, I forget this guy, instead of having a dick, he had an elephant trunk. And there was something about he went over his girlfriend's house to have dinner, and then all of a sudden the trunk came out. When they were passing the food around, the trunk came out, just grabbed some food and went under the table. The girlfriend's mother was like, can you do that again? And the guy was like, Yeah, I would, but I don't think I can fit another potato up my ass or something stupid like that. But I think that if they then became, they were also like sex. It was like racism, anti-religion, homophobia, and animal stuff. And I think they all kind of came out of that. And then there was sort of probably like the formulas, two priests and a rabbi. And then that becomes two straight guys and a gay guy. It's probably not how they worded it back in the day, but I just think that it just kind of, two white guys and a black guy. So the joke has to stem from, if you work backwards, it has to stem from someone reading a paper, someone asking someone something, and he goes, "Oh, you mean that?" And he goes, "Is that in the paper?" And then they laugh to each other, and then that guy said, "All right, the punchline is it's already in the papers. That's the punchline." And then they work it's like
backwards.
A script. You have to know how it's going to end, and then you got to know what you're writing towards. So, and then all you have to do is you just have to disguise it so they don't see it coming. But I just think the jokes got more and more sophisticated, and then over the years, with racism, homophobia, and all that stuff being frowned upon by mainstream media, and you can get in trouble and all that type of stuff, I feel like racism and all that shit just went underground. I think it got a little bit better, but I don't think, when you see that shit, all that horrible stuff in World War II, which essentially was a race war, both in the Pacific and in Europe, right?
Yeah.
If you see that the shit that people were doing to people, you can't believe that human beings could do that to other human beings. And just watching now with how hostile it is, you just like, it really didn't go away as much as it's sort of like a dormant volcano. Like it hasn't erupted, or it's still an alive volcano, just hasn't erupted in 80 years. It's really,
Norm Macdonald was good at jokes like that.
And actually, by me saying that is bad, because I say it hasn't erupted in 80 years because I'm just counting white people doing shit to other white people. When I'm sure people in the Middle East would be like, "Oh no, that thing's burning pretty good there, buddy."
Yeah, Hotel Rwanda.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I love good street jokes. I love good. I would probably. I wonder if
I got another one Jackie told, and I can never tell it right. I can never tell it funny.
What is it?
I never do it right. All right, guy goes into a job interview. The interviewer says, in the interview, he goes, so tell me, he goes, what would you say is your biggest weakness? The guy's like, my biggest weakness? Oh, geez, I don't know. I guess I have to say it's my honesty. The guy goes, your honesty? Well, I don't think you're being honest. It's going to be a problem around here. The guy goes, hey, buddy, I don't give a fuck what you think. He does it so much better.
I don't give a fuck what you think.
He does it so, because when he does it, he yells it. He goes, hey, buddy, I don't give a fuck what you think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I suck at telling. It's hilarious. I'm a comedian, but I'm not good at telling street jokes.
Yeah, it's weird that street jokes kind of just aren't. I would love to. I wonder who the comic was that shifted, because Buddy Hackett was a street joke guy, right? Vaudeville.
Oh my God, that guy had a black belt in telling street jokes. He was unbelievable. That was the whole thing, where people used to try to go to the Tonight Show, and you'd pray that he was the guest, because it wasn't even it was when they went to commercial. He would just start telling street jokes,
Buddy
all
Hackett.
of that stuff. Like, I guess he told that aristocrat joke, which, they always act like that's the joke comedians telling Green Room. I had never heard of that joke till the documentary came out. But when they used to go to commercial, if you see any, people watching this, you should know who Buddy Hackett is. But look up Buddy Hackett, Johnny Carson commercial break. And at the very least, you'll find a clip of them coming back and Johnny Carson like crying, laughing, the band going nuts, the crowd going crazy. And you would start laughing just thinking about what you missed.
Yeah.
But, going back to that joke, I don't give a fuck what you think, is basically like, that's one of those things where you have, that's somewhere that came along. Hey, be honest with me. Hey, go fuck yourself. And then you think, oh, that's like a good joke. So somebody says, be honest. And so you have sort of that, like, I don't know, like the building blocks of that. And then you just have to have the misdirection right before the punch, and then the whole setup.
Buddy Hackett was on Jay Moore's action TV show, and Barry Katz was the manager.
Yeah,
my
Peter
manager.
Dragon.
And yeah,
that was a great show.
When Barry said, "Hey man, why don't you come down to the set and you know, you can see them taping." I just moved to LA, and I was with 4 girls. One of them was not attractive, and she was like, I think she was probably a lesbian, but she had a short haircut, a little overweight, not the most attractive, but 3 other girls, right? And this girl. So we come in, Buddy Hackett's drinking out of his flask, and he says,
she could have been just straight and fat and just not good at taking care of herself.
Whatever.
I'm just trying to cover your ass here. Okay, go ahead.
I'm just telling you. I don't remember. She was friends of someone's friend.
All right.
And so Buddy Hackett's sipping on a flask, and he looks at that girl, and he says, "Hey, buddy, all these girls here with you?" And she goes, "I'm a girl." And he goes, "Oh." And then he looks at me and he goes, "Are you a chick too?"
Oh, he had the tag. Wow.
And I had a fucking goatee, and I was like, "No, I'm a man." And he goes, "Huh." I was fucking okay. And he just kept talking. It was.
But he did all of that for the joke.
He did it all probably.
All for the joke, so he probably thought you didn't get it.
Yeah. Oh, I was crying laughing. He was. I met him a couple times. He was really funny as shit.
You met him? Wow. Do you ever see It's a Mad World?
Yeah.
I watch that once a year because it's so good. I don't want to just burn it out. He is so fucking great. Everybody. The level of comedy. Who's that fucking guy who's in it? He actually died young. When he's like, I'm gonna. He's screaming as he's driving the car. I'm gonna kick the shit out of it. He's so fucking funny. That movie's so funny. Even Keith Robinson likes it.
Even Keith Robinson likes it. What was the joke Buddy Hackett had about? Guy shooting a duck, shoots a duck, and it lands on this farmer's yard. Goes up, and the farmer's got his shotgun out. Guy goes, "That's my duck," and the farmer says, "It's in my yard." And he goes, "So it's my duck," and he goes, "No, it's my duck," and he goes, "All right." Farmer says, "How about this? We'll kick each other in the dick until someone taps out, and that's how we'll decide whose duck it is." And the guy goes, "Oh, it's your duck." I fucking butchered that.